name is Sierra Goldstein, and I am 16, and I've been doing this sort of self-directed learning since I was a freshman in high school, so that was about, I think it's coming up on 3 years. And it started out as me wanting to be like a naturopathic doctor and being interested in sort of natural medicine, and I just didn't feel like I could do that in regular school. I felt like it was kind of holding me back, and there were certain things that they weren't offering and certain things I could do faster on my own, or it just wasn't really tailored to me. I felt like I was just one of the fish out of the sea, and I kind of wanted a more personalized learning. So I started doing that in 9th grade, and I got a lot accomplished. I got a talk at a TEDx. I was featured in a PBS special. I found lots of mentors, learned a lot, but there wasn't a lot of structure involved, I guess. It was really free-flowing, which was nice because it was kind of a break from that really hard structured part of school, but also I felt like I needed just a little bit more structure, especially since one of my goals was going to college. There are certain things that you have to be able to go. So I've really enjoyed having E3 being introduced because it does provide a little bit more structure. And I guess I'll just start there. So I sort of started, I don't want to say started because I've been doing this, but E3 was introduced to me, I guess, this last fall. And there were some big changes, I guess. It kind of went from having absolutely no structure to having more structure. Not that it's like a school, but there were now certain things that like I had to get done. There was online classes and stuff like that, so that took some getting used to. It was a little difficult, I think, at first to go from just kind of waking up and doing my own thing every day to actually having stuff that like I had to get done. Which was an interesting learning experience as well, because it made me realize how much balance needs to be incorporated. It's really not good, at least for me, to go from one extreme to the other. So having too much structure freaks me out, and then having absolutely no structure, I think, makes me maybe a little too relaxed, to the point where maybe at some point I wasn't doing as much as I probably could have, or using my time as well as I probably should have. But when E3 was introduced, several sort of new things happened. I started taking classes on the Plato platform, which is sort of like online at your own pace school. I got signed up for concurrent enrollment classes at the college, and I got a talk at a South by Southwest sort of convention, as well as focusing in more on my sort of online portfolio professional presence. I think those are sort of the 4 things that I've really been focusing on in E3. And all of those have provided really interesting learning experience. So the Plato part, it's sort of been trial and error to figure out how it really works for me, like what the best way for me to learn online is, taking notes, what the pace is, you know, how you really do have to pay attention and how you have to focus on time management, because there's times where I'll want to sit down and just like crank everything out for a few hours, and then there's times where I don't want to do it at all. So I've had to learn how to manage my time in increments to where I'll do it consistently, and that's taken a lot of trial and error. I'll admit there's been like time periods where I'm like, oh, you know, I can just for a while sit down and do a lot of it at one time and I'll be fine, so I don't have to do it today, which really doesn't work. But I'm glad I'm learning that now than later in life, because I have a safe space to do that in, with people who support you, so that's been helpful as far as the Plato goes. The concurrent enrollment classes, I just took my last final yesterday, so they're over, and that, I loved that. It made me realize that for a while I thought I hated being in a classroom, and I realized that I don't, but I like being in a classroom for something that I want to learn. So I took a history class and a biology class, which both were really interesting. The history class especially because I actually learned how to write a research paper. I've never known how to do that before, and I'm glad I did that in a classroom setting, because I don't know if I could have learned that like online. I liked having somebody there with me. And then biology science, I've learned it's so hard to learn by yourself. You really can't do it from just like reading a textbook. So I liked being in that class, and I mean, I do want to go to college, so it kind of gently introduced me back into, being in a classroom, which I think was super helpful, along with being able to interact with people who are interested in the same things that I am. And I really learned how to study, I think, from taking these classes. Like, I feel like I know what my own type of study plan should look like, whereas before, like, I had a general idea that you're supposed to look over your notes and maybe make some note cards, but that was about as far as that went, because I'd never really had to study before. But now I feel like I actually know how to study for a test. I know how to study for like a final, so I'm not as scared, going into a college setting, having not taken anything like that. I think that will prove super helpful. I got to speak at the South by Southwest concert in Austin. That was cool for the experience. Number one, I got to see Austin. And two, it was a huge conference. I don't think I had realized how big it was until I got there. But that kind of made me feel like what I was doing was being heard, or it wasn't something that was frowned upon anymore, because I think there's been a lot of times where I felt like the self-directed learning isn't really being accepted, and that's a scary feeling, especially with, your own education and wanting to go to higher education. If people don't get it, they're not going to let you in. So that made me feel a little bit more comfortable, and I mean, just being able to talk at a venue like that proves, it was quite a confidence boost. I got to meet a lot of cool people, and people heard my story and they resonated with it, so I didn't feel like I was doing something completely out of the box. If people could see and sort of be like, oh, I could see how that would work, I could see where you're going, I can see that you're learning, which is helpful, because sometimes I feel like because I'm not in school, maybe I'm not as smart as other people who are in school, which I know is not true, but sometimes your little mind gets in the way. So that was interesting to see that people saw that I had grown from the video that they watched, and that I was learning and taking steps in my education rather than just sitting here doing nothing. And then the online presence, that's probably been the most difficult part for me. I don't know why. I think part of me is almost like scared to put stuff out there, like just maybe as like a judgment part, like what will people think? And it takes a lot of work to get it right. Like, I kind of like doing things once and then putting it out there and hoping it works, and with that's really not the case. I've had to change things, I've had to experiment with different platforms, which for me is hard. Not that I don't like putting work into stuff, but I generally like when it works the first time. You can look at my mom's face right now and see that that's completely true. So that's, I think, taught me that patience almost, that it's, you're going to have to experiment with different things, and when it doesn't work, you're going to have to pick everything up, start over, and move on. Which, like I said, I'm glad that I'm learning now, because I'm in a safe space to do it. I'm not out, paying my own rent and trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life. I'm in a safe space. So that's, I think, been one of the more interesting things to be a part of, and sort of step back and observe, like, I really have an issue with it for some reason, and which is weird for me, because I like putting my story out there, but for some reason building the online presence has been so tough, and then, incorporating that with the, like the blogging and the, just a place where I think what really freaks me out, it's more of a place for professional people to come and look at it. Like before, it's been my own personal stuff, and I can kind of send it out, and whoever sees it, that's great. But now I'm actually building it for a specific reason and a specific group of people that I want to see it. And part of me almost feels like maybe I haven't done enough because I'm not in school, or because I'm doing something different that maybe they won't get it, and that almost scares me to put it out there. So that's, I think, it's teaching me a lot about just like letting that go and not having really any attachment to it. I mean, I've done I've done a lot and I've learned a lot, and then just trusting that the right people will see it and not really worrying about the people that don't get it. I shouldn't be a part of that institution anyway. So and it's taught me a lot too, just about technology. Like, I thought I got it, and I really don't. I get like certain things like Twitter and blogging and stuff, but there's a lot more to it. I didn't really realize how difficult like managing your own media profile is, and how much work it takes and how much effort it takes to keep up with it. That's the hard part too. Like, you can get it out there, but the maintenance part is so tough. It's like one of those everyday things, and stuff with me changes so often that it's like, okay, I have to go in and change that, and what are people gonna think? Like, I changed my mind again. Here we go. So that's been interesting. And then I think with the structure and the support group, I feel a lot more confident in where I'm going. I don't feel like I'm on my own trying at some point to get into college, which is kind of how I felt before. I'd look at my mom and be like, how are we going to do this? So there's a lot more, I think, support involved with the E3. And then it puts me, I think, sometimes in uncomfortable situations. Like, in school, I'm a pretty kind of a perfectionist in certain ways, not with other ways, but I don't like when I have late assignments or when I fall behind on something. And when it went from having no structure to then having certain classes, I would find myself being like, okay, I totally procrastinated on that, or I didn't do that, or stuff along those lines, and it kind of made me tap back into, okay, you've got to retrain yourself how to find that balance between having no structure and then making yourself do certain things every day. Because even, like I said, I love the biology class and I love the history class. Did I want to go through and highlight and make note cards every day? No. So I had to learn how to balance that. It's something I want to do, but it includes stuff that I don't want to do, which I think before, without the structure, I would kind of avoid the things that I didn't want to do, to be honest. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. So that sort of brought that stuff back to my attention, that even though you have like this certain goal and you're on this path and it is self-directed and you're going towards something you want to do, there's going to be steps on there that are not going to be fun or that you're not going to want to do, and I've had to do those things, which I think has been good for me, because I really wasn't before, because there was nobody there to tell me that I had to. Not that this is a space where you have to do this, but I mean, you're told that that's what you said you wanted to do, and if you want to get here, you have to do it. So it was interesting and helpful at the same time, because, like I said, I had to relearn that balance piece, which I felt like I had lost immensely before, and this kind of brought that back. So it's also kind of, I had those first few years, I like to think of it, I experimented a lot with certain things, and it brought to my attention a lot of things I thought I would want to do, I really didn't, or it kind of changed my path a little bit. And then once I got into the E3, I had a fairly generally good idea of what I wanted to do. And then being able to take those classes and stuff like that, where that's the stuff you're going to be seeing in college, I think really helped sort of solidify that is what I really want to do. Whereas before, I had the general idea, and then I could have gone into college and hated the classes and not even known. So I think that provided an interesting opportunity, experimentally wise, in a structured place, to where you're still getting the school credit, and even if you don't like it, that's okay, because it's going towards your diploma and your college, but you can always change your mind. So I feel like that is what I wanted to do, but if it wasn't, I wouldn't be any further behind. I'd still be ahead, or exactly where I am. And I think that's probably going to prove really, really, really helpful, because I probably wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to see any of that content had I not been a part of E3, which, if you don't know, you don't know. So it's harder to change your mind when you're actually in college than it is before. So I feel a lot more confident as far as that goes. Like, I really do know that this is what I want to be doing, and I have some background in it as well, so I know that it's not just an idea, it's an actual skill and sort of end goal for me. And then I think I've grown a lot personally as well, just from all those different learning experiences, and being held accountable, I think, is one of the biggest things. Because before I'd been just kind of had to hold accountable to myself, which that can kind of be tweaked a little bit as you want to see it. Whereas now I'm being held accountable towards other people, and I think that makes me think a little bit more about if I'm doing certain things or not doing certain things, how that affects everybody. Whereas before it was just affecting me, and I could be like, oh, well, that's okay, because I'll figure it out. But now it's like I have to do this now because it's part of a bigger picture. Not that I was completely selfish before, but it's like there's more people involved in it, and it's an actual, I think, program now that could really be out there because people get the structure part. So I want people to see that it works, so that more people can come in, and that requires doing sometimes those things that I didn't want to do, or trying, new things, taking classes and stuff like that. So I think as a person, that's made me see how my actions can influence more than just me, which was scary and I think really helpful at the same time. And then, throughout this whole process with E3 and before, you can probably ask anybody I've ever talked to before, but my communication skills and presenting skills have gotten a lot better. I was very shy before and couldn't really hold a conversation, or was it really hard for me to hold a conversation? I didn't really know, what to say, or hold a conversation, hold like a professional conversation, like to a point where I didn't feel like I was a kid talking to an adult. I feel like now I'm on like the same level when I'm talking to people, that I'm not, I don't feel like this shy little kid trying to get permission from an adult. I feel like I can speak the same language almost, whereas before I just felt like a kid, and now when I have conversations where I'm presenting, I don't feel like people are going to see me as a kid. I feel like they're going to see me as more mature than that, which has helped in a lot of interviews and just talking to people and trying to find mentors. I don't think that I probably could have gotten to connect with some of the people had I been like shy and timid and not really known how to have that professional conversation. So that's one of the biggest things I think I've taken from the self-directed learning, is those trials and errors and failures, my gosh, and successes, of course, have all kind of made me a different person and made me able to have more of a professional or mature sort of aura rather than just a kid. And E3's been a big part of that too, especially with the, what's the word I'm looking for? That need to, the accountability piece. That's one of the biggest things that I've, I think, taken from that. And then there's one other thing I was going to say. I've learned a lot, still learning a lot. I'm not going to say that over the year I've figured everything out, but I think I've taken a lot of good steps as far as like a self-directed learner to figure out what's working, what's missing, and what I need to do over the next few years to really get to where I want to be. And, which I've said a lot, I don't feel as stressed out anymore because there is that structure and there is that support group. So I think that's one of the biggest pieces too, is that I don't feel like because I'm not in school I'm alone. I feel like because I'm not in school, I have a lot more people supporting me. I'm not one of like 600 kids in a class that everybody's trying to figure out, okay, how do we just get them out of here? I feel like I'm really in a place where people are trying to help me tailor my education to how it's going to work best for me and how I'm going to learn best, not just how I'm going to pass the class, but how am I actually going to be able to get the most out of my education while I'm here. So, if anybody has any questions or anything.
I do, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sierra, if you could change anything about the program to make it better for incoming students, what would you change?
I know this is going to sound cheeseball, but right now I really don't know how much I would change. I don't know if that's just because I come from probably a different place than some of the other students. I haven't been in a regular school for a few years, and I've been sort of on my own, so coming in here, it really feels like a ton of support and a ton of new opportunity. I guess maybe the only thing I would change would be to have more kids involved, because sometimes it is nice to feel like you're part of a group. You don't want to be one of the, like I said, 600 kids that really aren't being paid attention to. But when you're completely alone or there's not many kids, sometimes it could be like discouraging, almost like I've felt at certain points. Like if you're not involved in a big group, maybe you're doing something wrong. Whereas when you have more people involved, it's like, okay, this is working, and I'm a part of a successful group that's all getting like the same amount of support. I guess that'd be like the only thing right now that I could see that might help a little bit.
Thank you.
I just had a few comments for you. Is that okay?
Sure.
I just really wanted to validate your level of self-awareness and encourage you that that's a huge, huge thing in this journey for you to be aware of your shortcomings as a learner and where you struggle. These are huge things, and the fact that you're able to not only know those about yourself but to verbalize them and to make changes in your study skills and your life based on that is huge, and I just hope you take that in and I just really want to give you props for that, because that level of self-awareness is just a big, big thing. A lot of adults can't do that, okay? And then I also just wanted to encourage you to see your learning journey as an evolution, not you hopping around. You mentioned a couple times, like, almost like you feel like you're flaky, you know, you're always changing your mind, and I don't see that at all. I see that you are evolving as a person and a learner, and I see all those experiences you have had prior to now have led you to where you're at now. So it's all part of your journey. It's not like, oh, I was here and there, and I'm just, so I guess just, you know, embrace that, and that's just part of you being who you are and where you're at. And I love your conversation skills. I want to tell you, we sit in during your conversations when you contact people from the college, and you just do an incredible job, and you definitely are on the level of the adults that you're speaking with, so I just want to give you props for that, too. You're amazing.
Well, Sierra, it's just been a pleasure to get to know you last year and this year. You know, your presentation, incredibly laid out, you know, very articulate. And I thought it was interesting because I still continue to wonder about, you know, our early teens and middle school years and how structured should that time be, because that's when you should really have this almost free-form learning that you were kind of talking about, and I think you had that opportunity to really just explore many very unusual things, and now you are ready for the accountability piece that comes with learning, and that structure does help you prepare for college, but I don't think you're ready for it when you're 11, 12, and 13 years old.
Right, yeah.
And so, you know, the success that you're finding at college verifies that, you know, you are on the right track. So it's just amazing. And so I was just wowed by your presentation. You did an outstanding job. Oh, sorry. But in your summary, you know, talking about accountability, you know, that was, you really said that repetitively through your presentation about how E3 has brought accountability to your life learning. And I agree with Julie that it's a journey, it's your story, your life, you know. And Carol Dweck is a psychologist who's done a lot of research on fixed mindsets versus growth mindsets. And growth mindset being that you're never done learning. Your learning is, you know, infinity and beyond. And so I see you as somebody with a definite growth mindset that you will never ever stop growing. Somebody with a fixed mindset says, I'm as smart as I'm ever going to get. So I'm just very impressed with everything you did. So thank you so much.
So Sheila, you.
Oh, I'm like obsessed with infinity signs. So I don't know what that's about, but wait, I have a bracelet too, actually. But yeah,
Cool.
so maybe that's a sign.
Maybe.
Sierra, thank you, and we look forward to continuing this journey with you. It's been a delightful year.
Thank you.